Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So actually, I wanted to focus on Fear the Walking Dead because there was an official trailer that got released yesterday, and it's actually the official trailer for the final 6 episodes of the show. There was a lot here that was revealed. Like, they got into quite a bit of stuff here. We seem to understand the general story based off of the trailer here. There's a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to look at the general flow of these 6 episodes here, because again, there's only 6 more left, right? And it does seem like the way it's going to play out is, I think Troy's going to be introduced pretty much right away, but there's also a lot of different storylines as well. There's Dwight and Sherry going back to the sanctuary, which was such a big part of this trailer for me, because timeline wise, like, the show right now, Fear the Walking Dead, lines up pretty much perfectly with The Walking Dead's ending. Like, where The Walking Dead ends with the Commonwealth, it pretty much lines up like practically at the same point there. So Dwight and Sherry seem to be, and June as well, I should add, they seem to be really close to the Commonwealth and Alexandria around the time that The Walking Dead ends. So they're actually very, very close. What happens to them at that point? Do they join the Commonwealth? Do they go back? Or like, what happens to them, right? So the fact that Dwight and Sherry are in that area is just, first of all, very exciting. We'll see where the story goes, but that could really set up a lot of stuff for Dead City. So I want to talk about that in this video. So before we go any further, obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Yeah, let's just jump into this here because there's quite a bit to talk about here in this trailer. So I guess the first thing that I do want to talk about is Troy's return. So we see Troy a lot in this trailer, and I really do like the fact that they're actually just kind of giving us this. Like, I think we should have saw a little bit more, if I'm being honest, like going back to the first 6 episodes. I think they should have introduced him at the very, very end. Like, Troy, I think, is a very good villain for the final season. For, the final 6 episodes, I think he'll still be really great, but I think he should have been the villain for the whole 12 episodes. Honestly, I look at the villain for the first 6 episodes of season 8, and Shrike and Crane, I believe, is what their names were. Honestly, very, very, I don't want to say bad villains, but they weren't really the greatest villains. Like, at first, it kind of seemed a little exciting because, there's a mystery as to like what Padre was, but then I don't know, I think they did a bad job with it. And so now Padre seems to be a place where Madison is basically just fighting to keep this place alive. And honestly, for me, I'm okay with that because now they sort of have a home. This is the final season, so it's basically going to be one of those things where, does Madison keep this place? We'll have to wait and see. But a big storyline here seems to be, where is Alicia? So it looks like, in terms of all the main characters here, we're actually at the point where, they're really getting to the ends of all their characters, right? And if some of these characters are going to be getting spin-offs, it's going to be really interesting to see, like, do they actually go down that route? And so when you're looking at all the main characters, you have Troy's return, which I feel like Troy's probably just going to die in the end. I don't really see him surviving unless he's going to be a part of a spinoff with, like, Madison and all that. But, like, there's just so much going on at this point. I feel like there's probably, I don't know. I see him as a character just kind of dying. But, it would be cool. I would like Troy, like, Madison and Dwight, Alicia, if they could be on Dead City in some way. That's a lot of the cast, though, so that's why I don't think it's going to happen. But Troy is a very cool character. We have Dwight and Sherry going back to the sanctuary. Obviously, that's something that is really interesting. So I did want to talk about this a little bit here, and that is the timeline of just everything happening here. So Laurent on The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, is described to be, I think he's like 11 years old, but I've seen some people say he's 12 years old. It's around there, 11, 12 years old. And I've seen this just on posts on Twitter or like descriptions of the character. He's about that age. And so the reason that makes no sense for me personally is because he was born pretty much at the start of the apocalypse, like pretty much within that first week or whatever. He was born, right? This spinoff takes place, I don't know, it doesn't take place immediately after The Walking Dead's ending. It takes place probably like a year or two after the finale of The Walking Dead. And so, like, when I look at it like that, I'm like, all right, well, first of all, Judith was about 11 or 12 years old. I think she was closer to 12 years old when The Walking Dead ended, and then it jumped forward a year. So she was about 12 to 13 years old, I would say, in that final episode. And not to mention, she was also born, like, 8 to 9, 10 months or a year into the apocalypse, right? So, by the time the finale airs, at least the very final moments there, it's about 13 to 14 years into the apocalypse, I would say. Maybe 12 to 13 years. It's somewhere in that range, but I'm pretty sure it's roughly 13 years. Like, it's about that, right? And if Laurent is like 11 or 12 years old, that makes absolutely no sense because Daryl Dixon takes place after that. So he should be about 14 or 15 years old right now. So I'm hoping that that's sort of the age that he is, because otherwise the timeline is just so messed up. But that's also one of those things as well. I really do not ever like really focus on the timelines anymore, because ever since Carl, I just really stopped caring because it just made no sense. To me, there is no way season 1 to the end of season 8 is 2 years. That is just too ridiculous to me. I think that time period should be about 3 to 4 years. Like 2 years is just, it's way too short of a period for how much happens. Like there's a lot of stuff, you know, especially during the All Out War arc and the Savior arc that, I mean, All Out War, there's no entire way that entire storyline's like a couple of weeks only. Like, it just makes absolutely no sense. I think that they should have managed the timelines there a lot better. And people focused on it a lot, obviously, because Maggie was pregnant, right? So, like, they were really going to focus on that. And then they started doing all the time jumps and everything. And I just think that in terms of, you know, how to focus on the timeline of everything, none of it makes any sense. And the thing is, it's like, it's not even like they you know, realize, okay, we kind of messed this up. Maybe we can try fix it a little bit now. No, they just kind of keep messing it up, because it seems like with Laurent, they kind of messed it up again. So to me, I just kind of go based off of what they say. I try not to focus on the actual ages of the characters and where this character should be during this time, because it just, to me, it just makes absolutely no sense. Like, to me, if Dead City takes place after Daryl Dixon, I mean, honestly, I don't even know if it matters story-wise. I don't think it really does at all. So to me, at this point, I think just focus on the actual story. Like, literally just focus on, like, what they're saying, and that's pretty much the way you have to take it. So Laurent, if he's 11 or 12 years old, I mean, don't focus on the number like that. Just think, okay, he's generally in that age range, because if you try to focus on the technicalities of all of it, it's going to get too frustrating, because it just makes no sense timeline-wise. Like, he should be much older than that, right? And so that's why I wanted to get into the timeline here for Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead, because Fear the Walking Dead is a show that's actually very good with sort of managing their timeline. Like, overall, they are exactly where they should be, and the characters have aged sort of, you know, in the same way. So to me, when I look at Fear the Walking Dead now, when you look at Dwight and Sherry going back to the sanctuary, that should be around the time that obviously they are dealing with the Commonwealth, or it's sort of in that, I guess, that year time jump during the finale. It's somewhere around there, but they've caught up with the Walking Dead, you know, in terms of the timeline and whatnot. And it's very exciting to see Dwight and Sherry back at the sanctuary, because you gotta wonder why. Like, there's some shots of Dwight and Sherry going back to their old house and all of that. There's a lot of stuff when I look at that where I'm thinking, what are you doing overall with the characters? Like, obviously this is sort of an ending, so are you ending their characters in a way that makes a lot of sense? Like, I just try to look at Morgan's final episode, or his last couple of episodes, and, you know, they had Morgan go back to his old house, and they sort of closed the story in certain ways there. I think they're probably doing the same thing with Dwight and Sherry. I just hope it makes sense as to why they're going back to the sanctuary, why they're going back to you know, these places here. Like, I hope that it really is because they're like, you know what, that was our home, so let's go back there and see if there's anything here. Can we try and salvage something here, kind of thing, right? If they're trying to find purpose and all that, because maybe where they're at, they just feel so off. Now, the interesting thing about that, though, is there's a lot of footage in this trailer where we see Troy arrive to Padre, or he's talking with other people, you know, trying to find Padre, and Dwight's there. Dwight and June are there. Luciana is there. And so this doesn't happen, like Dwight and Sherry going to the sanctuary. I don't think it's going to happen until like the last 3 episodes, really, of the entire series. And so at this point, I think Dwight and Sherry are probably just kind of gone. And I think they are most likely separated from the entire story. And to me, I feel like episode, I don't know what episode it would be, I guess 10 or 11. Episode 10 or 11 is probably going to be like the standalone Dwight and Sherry story. And that's probably going to be one of their last episodes because of just where they're at. And I think that'll pretty much be it, because I feel like the episode 11 or 12, it's really going to focus just on Madison and Strand, and go back to the basics, just in terms of characters and stuff. Just get to telling their stories, and, you know, you started off the show with those characters, focus on them. And I think that's probably most likely what they're going to do. It's going to really feel like Fear the Walking Dead at that point. Like, it really feels like they're just trying to get rid of all the Walking Dead characters right now, and Fear the Walking Dead, you know, how it started with just those original characters, which I'm okay with, honestly. Like, to me, when they did the crossovers, Morgan's crossover, I wasn't that excited about. I remember when they announced it, it was like, oh, this is really cool. I wonder how they're going to do that. But I remember the talk at the time was it's probably going to be Abraham because it makes more sense story wise. But then Morgan just ended up being there forever. And obviously that became a huge issue. And then when they announced Dwight, I remember still being upset about that. And so the fact that the show is ending now and we can see where the story is going, it's very exciting because I do think out of all the characters here, Dwight and Sherry could really be in the Walking Dead Dead City. And I think they're probably setting that up here. I think those shows, it makes a lot of sense. Like the Walking Dead Dead City season 2, I mean, it's probably not going to have Dwight in it. I mean, I guess they could write it. And that's the one thing I should mention. I think the writer's strike is likely coming to an end very soon. There's rumors that it's coming to an end today or tomorrow. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But if it does come to an end, then the writers can actually get to work on The Walking Dead Dead City, in season 2s of just all the other shows and stuff, right? Like, they can actually work on a lot of that, which will be really, really awesome. A lot of people will be really happy about that because there's a lot of projects that people want to write and work on right now, but they just can't. So, in terms of all of that, I think that it'll be interesting to see. In terms of Dead City season 2, they can actually start to focus on that right now. And then I think in terms of filming and all that, I mean, I feel like for filming, yeah, like they just have to work on that season and stuff like that. They'll probably announce like a filming schedule and stuff for Dead City at some point in the next couple of months. I'm assuming that show is going to start filming like early 2024, January, February, around there. And this way that show can release probably in September, October of next year. Because I think Daryl Dixon season 2 is going to be out before Dead City season 2. It just kind of seems like it because they're obviously filming Daryl Dixon season 2 right now, right? So I think that could mean, though, that Dead City season 2 could be a really big season if they have Dwight and Sherry on that show, because obviously that creates a very, very interesting dynamic there, right? With Dwight and Sherry and Negan being there as well. I think there's so much that you can tell there. In terms of the other stuff, though, in the trailer, there's a lot of focus, I would say, on, again, Padre. There's a really cool, like, winter shot, and that's actually kind of interesting. They're actually going to be giving us, like, a winter, like, episode, so I'm kind of hyped for that. It feels like it's going to be a one-episode thing, but for me personally, I'm totally fine with that. I think that can honestly work. The Walking Dead did that, right? Like, we had a one-episode thing for that, and that was pretty amazing. So I'm really excited to see like winter in the Walking Dead universe again, because obviously people love that. And yeah, I'm interested in seeing how that's actually going to look overall. And I'm really wanting to know the behind the scenes of how they filmed this, because a lot of this is outside and it's shots from like really high up. And some of that obviously is CGI. You probably had to change some of the colors overall to make it look more like winter than summer. But I know with The Walking Dead, they filmed a lot of their winter stuff inside a studio. So it was easier to fix a lot of stuff like that because, I mean, you could just have sort of a nighttime scene, right? And you didn't have to focus on actually giving us like daylight and stuff and having to focus on a lot of the other visuals and whatnot. Now, a big part of this trailer is Madison wondering where Alicia is. And so Troy obviously finds Alicia's arm, or at least her robotic arm, or not robotic arm, but that, that arm that she had. And, I'm very confused with a lot of stuff here. There is a lot of questions that I do have just based off of where Fear the Walking Dead has went in recent years, at least season 7 and 8, in terms of explaining things like this. I feel like the explanation is going to be so ridiculous. Like, I'm just being honest. I really feel like it's going to be so ridiculous because, for one, why does Troy have this arm? It makes no sense. And two, I mean, I guess Troy wouldn't know what happened to Madison, but Troy is going to Strand, or at least his people, like they find Strand and they're like, we're looking for Madison. And for some reason, Strand knows that Madison's alive. That's where I'm a little confused. Maybe that's just the way it's portrayed in the trailer. Maybe when we watch the show, he's like, wait, what? She died a long time ago. So maybe we actually see him react. But I swear, if we don't get any kind of reaction from Strand to the fact that Madison is actually still alive, I think that is just so ridiculous. That is insane, because I still think overall the reaction to Madison being alive has been it just really hasn't been there. I feel like people should be freaking out a lot more. Like, I still go back to the Walking Dead final season. When Daryl found out from Judith that Rick was alive, there was like barely any reaction there. And that's one of the things that I will say the spinoffs have sort of fixed. Like, there hasn't been a moment where when a character finds out this person is there or whatever, or like if they found out this person's alive, that there's been like this really crazy emotional reaction. We haven't seen anything like that yet. I guess the next moment would be Daryl finding Carol, right? Like, when Daryl sees Carol, he's probably going to be, or at least I'm hoping, he's going to be super happy. Like, in season 4 or 5, I think it was season 5 actually, when Daryl saw Carol for the first time because he thought that, she left because she left the prison. He got so excited he ran up to her, kind of thing, right? We want moments like that. And when Daryl found out Rick was alive, you'd figure that he would have a crazier reaction, but he just kind of had a little smile. And it has nothing to do with the actors and all that either. Like, this is more the writing, because they're rushing through a lot of this stuff, and I feel like they're not focusing on these moments that fans really want. And this even goes back to like Carl's death as well. Carl's death was such a huge moment. Like, I wanted to see everyone's reactions, but no, it was just sort of this montage of like sad music. And when they showed up at the hilltop, we just saw Enid and everyone else crying and everyone else kind of staring off and being like, oh, Carl's dead, kind of thing, right? Like, I wanted a much more raw reaction because Carl is such a big character. That was so underwhelming. And so, I think coming back to, the talk of the Fear the Walking Dead trailer, I kind of feel like it's going to be the same thing still. I think if we do see Strand react to Madison being alive, again, it has nothing to do with Strand or the actor, because obviously the actor is an amazing actor. It's more to do with the writing, and I feel like that's just the way the shows have sort of been. And it's very, very interesting when you're looking at a show like Fear the Walking Dead right now, the way it's sort of being run or handled overall kind of feels like there's a lot of similarities to the way The Walking Dead used to be run, right? Like, the Walking Dead spinoffs are very different from Fear the Walking Dead. The other spinoffs, and obviously The Walking Dead, like original series, right? Like, the spinoffs feel like crazy, like quality television, like a cinematic experience. The story feels like people really care about it, and they're focusing on all the small details. Like, it's stuff that we've been wanting for a very, very long time. There's a reason why people are starting to love this franchise again. It's because of these spinoffs. It's because it seems like they really care about the story right now. And I'm not saying The Walking Dead final season and like season 10 and 9 never did, but there is, and again, this could come down to the budget and all of that, but there's a difference here. Fear the Walking Dead, I hope that it ends in a way that is sort of, I guess, I don't know, respectful in some way, but just based off of the first 6 episodes of season 8, I just wasn't that excited about it. I really wasn't. I really tried to give it a chance. Grace's death, to me, I mean, obviously that moment was really, really heartfelt and whatnot, but I just had issues overall with kind of the way that, Morgan handled it. Like, I think the way Morgan handled it was, in terms of the performance and all that, makes sense, but it was sort of the way that whenever he kept saying all I see is red, how it was like this time jump of a moment where he would snap in and out of it, when I believe the original intent of all I see is red was basically, it was like a period of time where he was just crazy. Like, he went crazy for a couple of months and then he snapped out of it, right? Not like these things where it happens for a couple of hours or like 10 to 30 minutes and then he comes out of it right away, where he doesn't remember anything. Like, the way they portrayed it just kind of seemed ridiculous. And so when I think of Grace's death, a death that should have been really, really crazy, I just think that Morgan's reaction and all that made sense, but combined with everything else, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I really like the very ending scene of Morgan's time on Fear the Walking Dead, because he's like, I'm gonna go look for Rick. It's sort of his goodbye and everything. And the way they handle all of that, I think worked really, really well. And so that's why I'm kind of excited, I think, for Fear's 6 episodes here, the final 6 episodes, because I think no matter the explanations for certain things, like why Troy is here, it makes sense why he's looking for Madison. Regardless of if Strand's reaction to Madison being alive is ridiculous or whatever, I think the endings for these characters are overall going to be pretty satisfying and a lot of fun to watch. So that's where, as a Fear the Walking Dead fan, because I am a big fan of Fear the Walking Dead, I've been a fan of Fear the Walking Dead for many, many years. Obviously fell off like a couple of years ago, but it's one of those shows that it's just, I want it to be so much better. And I was so hyped after season 6 because I thought they learned their lesson with season 4 and 5. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But season 8 looks really, really interesting. I'm definitely very excited for these final 6 episodes. I think the story, like, I like, what I would want them to do is for sure focus on the Troy stuff very, very early on. Like, you need to get into that pretty much right away. If you wait until the 2nd or 3rd episode of these final 6, it's going to really, I think, wreck a lot of the flow of the last couple of episodes. I think you want to get into the stuff pretty fast. Again, I don't know where the story overall goes with all of that, but like, this is probably gonna be the last time that we see a lot of characters like Luciana Daniel, Troy, basically if you're not Madison, Strand, Dwight, or Sherry, you're probably not going to be seen again, right? I mean, I guess there's the argument for June, but I don't know. June, I think this could be it for June. So I hope that we focus a lot on like the main part of the story very, very fast. We get into a lot of that and then focus on trying to find Alicia and all of that, because obviously that's going to be a big, big motivation for Madison, and that could be where Madison's story ends. And I know that is something that people really want. They want Alicia to return here in the final episodes. I don't know if I really want that, because I don't think that would be that exciting of a moment. I think you can do a moment like that much better in Dead City. Like, say Madison shows up in Dead City, or Rick and Michonne, though probably not Rick and Michonne, probably in Dead City. Like, I would love a reunion between Madison and Alicia in a show like that, of that quality. For Fear the Walking Dead's last 6 episodes, if it were to happen, it's going to be in like the very last episode. Like, it's going to be a random moment in the very last episode, and it could be a good scene. Again, I don't know. I think they could do a lot better, and I think they could definitely expand a lot more on their character stories in spinoffs and stuff. And Alicia Dedham Carey seems like she would do that, at least just based off of some of the online interactions with her and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, the trailer looks really good. It actually got me excited to watch this. I'm very interested in Strand and what he's been up to. Like, he's with another group again. And I just want to know a lot more of what's been going on with him, because he was not in the first 6 episodes. So I hope he gets a lot of screen time here, because obviously he's a very big character. He was my favorite character for so long. Like, Nick, I think, was my number 1, but it was kind of going back and forth between Nick and Strand. It was just like, I really love both of them as characters. Nick died, and then that kind of got me angry just at Fear the Walking Dead in general. Strand eventually just got to the point where I didn't even know, like, I couldn't recognize the character anymore. He was just, but again, that wasn't necessarily Strand's fault. That kind of was, it was everyone. Like, Morgan even suffered as a character. All of the best characters basically suffered as characters because of how bad the writing was in season 4 and 5, right? And then I think where things got better for a lot of other characters in season 6, it just never did for Strand, and that's what was so frustrating about it, because I wanted Strand to become a villain. It really seemed like they were going down that route, and then they just kind of changed it afterwards, and I was like, I really liked the character so much. Like, he was legit my favorite character, pretty much. If I had to list one character on this show out of all 8 seasons that was my absolute favorite, it would be Strand, like, so easily. It's just, I wish that they would have went down a villain route with him towards the end, just because I feel like that the actor, first of all, amazing actor, but the character in the very, very beginning was very complex. And I think it would be so tragic if it just ended in like crazy heartbreak or whatever, and then the character died and he's just sort of, just something like that. You know what I mean? Because we never get stuff like that. And it always feels like the characters are so safe, at least the main characters, because that's kind of one of the things that, looking back, that I do really like about Nick's death is Nick was such a big character, but there was so much tragedy to him. Like, he was such a tragic character. And then he just died so sadly. And that was it. There was no real happiness to his story. It was just, that was it. And it's one of those things where when you look at the stories of a lot of characters in the Walking Dead universe, his does stand out quite a bit. I kind of wanted the same thing there for Strand, but if it does mean that we're going to get Strand in a future spinoff, then that'd be really cool as well. Like, a Madison and Strand spinoff, like, I would like to see that. I don't know how much you could really do, because it would just feel like a Fear the Walking Dead spinoff, right? And Fear the Walking Dead's already a spinoff, so I think just have those characters in the other shows. But anyways, this video is getting very, very long. I just really wanted to give my thoughts on Fear the Walking Dead as a whole, sort of going into these last 6 episodes, because it's not like I do a lot of Fear the Walking Dead videos. I will, obviously, when the show premieres in just like little over a month, pretty much exactly a month tomorrow. And yeah, I'm very excited. October 22nd, we're going to get the last 6 episodes here. And I hope that, they could really end it in a really amazing way, where it just, in terms of the story, in terms of what this show has meant to a lot of fans, it is sort of respectful of that and honors that. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.